Let's just jump right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we're breaking down John Coley's All Grandpa's Fish, and honestly, it is a fascinating case study. We're going to look closely at exactly how this story uses a brilliant mix of humor and hidden history to just absolutely hook young readers. It's the perfect example of how you can entertain and educate at the exact same time, all wrapped up in what seems like a completely normal family morning.
Now, this is the ultimate question, right? I mean, it's the exact thing every parent or educator asks when they pick up a new children's book. What is the draw here? And, more importantly, what's the actual takeaway for the kids? Well, this story answers both of those by blending sheer hilarious absurdity with a literal treasure trove of cultural Easter eggs. It completely respects the child's intelligence while keeping them, frankly, glued to the page.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with A Grand Fishing Mystery, then look at the classic tall tale, uncover the hidden American folklore, check out the quarter twist ending, and finish up with the final magical hook. Let's get into it.
All right, starting with section 1, A Grand Fishing Mystery.
We kick things off with a premise that's honestly super relatable.
Young Mary notices a pretty glaring inconsistency in her family's traditions. You see, her dad and uncle are heading out on this exclusive crack of dawn fishing trip, but Grandpa Tom, the actual patriarch of the family, is staying home. And what really sets this up beautifully is the stark contrast between Mary's totally logical observations and the absolute fiction we're about to dive into. Mary looks at her grandfather and sees reality, right? She sees a strong, outdoorsy guy who can literally split a log with one swing of an axe. He seems like the perfect candidate for a fishing trip. But Grandpa's explanation for why he doesn't fish? Oh boy. It involves surviving tornadoes, riding a vehicle-sized catfish at Mach 1, and dodging giant blue oxen. It is just this incredible clash between a child's grounded logic and an adult's totally unhinged imagination. Over this cozy breakfast of pancakes, bacon, and jelly biscuits, Mary finally works up the nerve to just ask him, why doesn't he fish? Grandpa Tom kind of pauses, looks off into the distance, and delivers this perfect line. I had to give it up years ago. That's a bit of a long story, I'm afraid. I mean, come on. That simple, hesitant little admission is the ultimate narrative bait. It pulls the reader right into the mystery, because honestly, who can resist a long story told over morning coffee?
Moving on to section 2, the classic tall tale.
Okay, so once Grandpa Tom starts talking, the whole vibe of the book transforms. We go from a quiet morning in the kitchen straight into an action-packed masterclass in exaggeration. And this is exactly where the educational benefit really kicks in, because the author is expertly modeling the tall tale. As you probably know, this is a massive cornerstone of American literary tradition. A tall tale takes these wild, unbelievable elements, like, say, a catfish the size of an economy car, and relates them with a completely straight face, as if it's 100% factual. For a young reader, this is just a fantastic, engaging way to get introduced to concepts like tone, exaggeration, and hyperbole.
Just listen to this. He says, after impersonating a lumberjack slingshot missile, you'd think that I'd be ready to give up. The sheer entertainment value here for a kid is just off the charts. Imagine the vivid imagery of your grandpa acting as a human missile, hooked to an apex predator catfish, and literally getting launched out of a pine tree by a giant lumberjack. It's guaranteed to get a laugh, right? It's physical comedy, it's fast-paced, and it is just wildly imaginative. Which brings us to section 3. Hidden American folklore.
Now, here is where the book shifts gears. It goes from just being a funny, exaggerated story to actually becoming this brilliantly constructed puzzle for reading comprehension. Hidden all throughout Grandpa's frantic, high-speed journey are encounters with legendary figures. But here's the kicker. He never explicitly names them in the text. They operate as these really clever literary Easter eggs. By threading these characters into the chaos, from a cowboy using a rattlesnake for a lasso to a guy driving steel in a dark tunnel, the author is introducing kids to classic American folklore in a way that feels completely organic and, honestly, just incredibly fun. Let's take a look at how this actually plays out. Notice how the book builds the mystery. Instead of just dropping names, it describes their legendary deeds. Grandpa meets a giant lumberjack who fells a tree with one swing. Well, that's Paul Bunyan. He flies through a dark tunnel where a man with 2 hammers is carving out solid rock. Boom, that's John Henry. It's essentially challenging the young reader to solve this historical puzzle themselves. Or better yet, it sparks a conversation where they turn to their parents or teachers and ask, hey, who are these larger-than-life characters supposed to be?
All right, section 4, the quarter twist ending. So after pages and pages of these mythological, death-defying struggles against nature, tornadoes, and runaway trains, we finally reach the climax of the story. And it delivers the ultimate comedic payoff. Yep, 25 cents. After Mary finally calls him out on his wild story, Grandpa admits the truth. The actual reason Grandpa Tom quit fishing wasn't because of a giant catfish or some near-death experience. No, he quit because the price of a fishing license went up by a single, solitary quarter. I love this because it completely subverts all those epic expectations we just spent the entire book building up. The author uses the unreliable narrator trope here to deliver a punchline that is just so incredibly mundane. Grandpa goes on this whole rant about how they're going to tax our oars next. And kids will instantly recognize this as totally absurd adult behavior. It grounds the story right back in reality with a hilarious thud, basically showing that sometimes the real reasons adults do things are way sillier than any tall tale. And finally, Section 5, the final magical hook. Okay, so just when Mary and us, the readers, completely dismiss Grandpa's entire tale as a ridiculous lie to cover up him being stubborn over a quarter, the author delivers one last brilliant twist in the epilogue. We can see exactly how the line between fiction and reality gets completely blurred here. Mary's dad and uncle come home from their trip totally empty-handed, but they mention having a really bizarre encounter. They fished out a pair of silver slippers, gave them to a girl in a hot air balloon who had a little dog, and then watched a sudden wind whisk them away over a rainbow. Wait a second, right? That ties directly back to Grandpa's initial story about the tornado and the girl from Kansas. It heavily implies that Dorothy from Oz just crossed paths with the rest of the family. Mary looks at her grandpa, realizes something truly magical is actually happening, and decides she's going to give up fishing herself. Ultimately, this story rewards young readers with so much more than just laughs. It's a beautiful invitation asking them to look a little closer at the legends, the tall tales, and the everyday magic that might just be hidden in their own backyards. It leaves us with one incredibly provocative question to chew on. If the best lie he ever told actually happened, what else in our history is secretly true? Well, thanks for joining me on this explainer. And hey, keep looking for the magic in your own family stories.